each other. The two teams didn't take their probably one chance that they had, them through Maswanise, ourselves through McGrath. But there's just a bit of a, I think as a support, that's probably fourth away. But you just hope that that's not. I mean, the one group of people that can't believe that is the coaching staff and the team.
Mhm. So, do you think it is a way, John? Because when full time went, I was like, that's us fucked now. But then after that, when you're like, well, there's still two games before the split. Motherwell haven't got easy games, and although ours aren't easy either, I think ours are slightly more favourable than theirs.
The Tawdry with Robinson getting potentially any level of a bounce out of that team. They've bought decent players, so you might get something out the squad. I simply think that there's not enough games for us to pick up the points to get back six.
Hmm.
If we were sitting 4 points or 2 points behind, I would probably think we could do it. I just think that 6 points plus a fairly big swing in terms of goal difference uh, just gives it to Motherwell. Doesn't mean doesn't it doesn't mean that we don't keep swinging for it. But if you were asking me, would I put a pound on it for Hibs to finish fourth? No, I'd keep my pound and use it on my trolley.
A pound for the trolley. Jeff, what do you think? Fourth place, is it? Is it done and dusted now, or Motherwell going to see it out?
It's not done and dusted. Too many games left, but they're favourites to get fourth. A couple of ways of looking at the game on Saturday. It was very meh. There were two teams to me that just didn't want to get beat. That's the way teams played it. Motherwell showed us respect. We showed Motherwell maybe a bit too much respect, especially second half. But if they had beaten us, 9 points, that's definitely fourth place done. 6 points, we've still got to play them at Easter Road, hopefully, depending on how they swing the fixtures.
Hmm.
You would think we'd be favourites to beat them at Easter Road, so that's potentially 3 points. And anything can happen with a 3 point gap. So, yeah, it's not over. But, yeah, they're definitely favourites for it, but not as big a favourites as other people are making out. They've got tough games. We've got tough games. They've
Yeah.
a bit of a sticky patch, which we always knew they would. They haven't won in 3 games, shipped 5 goals compared to our record recently. We're not shipping goals, but we're not scoring either. It was. When we played them the time before, everyone was on about the masterclass that the Motherwell manager Bertolascu,
Hmm.
coached David Gray. Well, there were two very well coached teams out there on Saturday. And fans are complaining that we weren't adventurous enough, but we certainly were well coached. That's been levelled at Gray before, and other Hibs managers. Jack Ross, I remember when Dundee United beat us 3-0 at Easter Road, was
Yeah.
coached on that day, according to all the armchair pundits. That's just the way it goes. I would like to have seen us be more adventurous in the last 15. Just go for it, maybe.
Uh,
But a draw's not the worst result in the world. A place where I think Falkirk have won there. I can't think of any other team that's won there this season.
well, I think we'll come back onto the adventurous thing in a wee minute because Dan has said evening all when Jay started boring and predictable, 2 games in a row, no goals. That's on Gray. He can't be in charge next season. It's been a joke. Disappointed. And Gary said we can still do it. Have faith. Joe, how about you? What do you think then? Is fourth place gone, or have we got a chance to get it back?
Not at all. I mean, what we've got to remember is Hibs are in a transitional stage. We've brought in some more new players, having brought in a lot of new players at the start of the season. We're just about a new team from where we were this time last year, largely. So that's got to be taken into account. And David Gray, he's getting a lot of brickbats at the moment. I think he's moving in the right direction. The last 2 games have been 0-0 draws, but he's starting to plug the gaps at the back. The defence has suddenly become tighter, and that's without 2 internationals in Hanley and Garananga. When Jose Mourinho in the early noughties really built up that great Chelsea team, he built from a strong depth at the back. And also as the oldest Longbanger, I was born in 1949. I remember the great Hibs teams of the 1960s with all the internationals. I've listed a few here: Joe Baker, Johnny McLeod, Pat Quinn, Colin Steen, Pat Stanton, Jim Scott, Peter Cormack, Peter Marinello, Neil Martin, and the greatest of them all, in my view, Willie Hamilton. But we won nothing because we had a crap defence. David Gray's getting it right. He's buttoning it up at the back. So, he's getting a few big bats at the moment, but I think we're heading in the right direction. But what we're desperately needing is a creative midfield player.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had him in Dylan Levitt, but we played him at number 6, not number 8, where he played Dundee United. And if Hibs do anything in the summer transfer window, we've got to get that creative midfield player. Right, I've said my piece.
Okay, right, Stephen. We don't ideally want to be going into the split needing to take points off Rangers and Celtic, given the circumstances in the league, but we might need to. Is this the sort of the nightmare scenario for us, that we're going to end up going into games against the Old Firm needing to take 3 points off them to make sure we've got a chance of fourth?
Yeah, just before I answer that question, Matty, hearing Joe rhyming off all those classic players, and I can remember pish like Derek Collins at the very start of my Hibs journey, Jarko Viss, Errol Jean, all these absolute ballers. They didn't win anything either, eh?
Well,
some of them arguably won the first division, which is pretty remarkable. But yeah, my worry is exactly as John says. I think we can plug a gap of 6 points, but between now and the end of the season, do I see us getting 6/7 more points in Motherwell? Probably not, to be honest. Based on how many games they've lost, how many games they've drawn, our tendency to leak late goals, I can't. I'd love to say I can see us being capable of closing the gap, but I personally can't. I just don't think Motherwell will drop 7 more points on us before the end of the season. So going into the split, I think the next 2 games are definitely winnable. They are tough in terms of Aberdeen having a new manager, possibly getting rid of the rot that had set in, and Kilmarnock being rejuvenated under McCann. That'll be a difficult game. Mm-hmm. I know one of their games is away to Hearts, I think. Don't know who their other game's against, but hopefully they'll do something against Hearts, bizarrely. Get into the split. If it's still 6 points by the split, yes, we've got them to play. Whether that's Easter Road or Fir Park, I'm not entirely sure. We might get shafted again like we did with St Mirren last season for the split. When it comes down to that, clawing back potentially 6 points, 7 points across a 5-game period, it becomes a lot more difficult. It really, really does. I think every team will drop points post-split, and include the teams at the top, because they're so evenly matched, not in terms of they're all great, it's really just because they're all pretty average. There's just teams that are right now far more effective than others. But if we were relying on 2 or 3 potential wins after the split to get fourth, I'm not sure we'll have it in us to get 3 wins after the split, personally speaking, especially if we get shafted a little bit with one of the away games that might see us going somewhere 3 times in a season, which I've never agreed with, but it can always happen.
That's what it is, eh? BM said, always happy to hear some common sense from Jeff. Nice one. Wee compliment for you there, Jeff. J-Star said, we need Paslak to do more. It can't keep coming from Nicky. And the alternative Hibs said, Derek Collins' abuse will not be tolerated. He had a beautiful head of hair. Ian, how crucial are these next 2 games? It's Kilmarnock and Aberdeen up next for Hibs. Killie at home, Aberdeen away. Are we into the realms of must win now to realise any sort of hopes of 4th place?
I don't really care. I mean, I don't really care at all. I mean, I go to the games anyway, so yeah. I just go to the games. So there's nothing I can do. I don't really care. But I mean, obviously we can beat anybody, but we've still never really turned up in the way that I think this team can. This team is, I think, capable of a lot more. I mean, it was quite successful for me on the game, because I got my hair cut and I got a shave in Motherwell before the match. And it was only when I was getting my shave that I noticed the cash only sign in the Turkish barbers, and I never carry cash. So then I remembered I actually won the football card sweep on the 2016 bus. And so I had £25 and it saved my neck. But I agree with Jeff that I was actually very impressed with the preparation the coaching team had done for the game. So we were actually from the front really well with Jamie McGrath, Boyle and Shuto. I would have preferred Elding to Shuto, as he actually closes down faster and forces mistakes. And we were much more disciplined on passing on men at the press, because usually it's half-arsed. And there was much more pointing, people pointing much more pointing than usual. And amazingly, David Gray was actually much more vocal on the sidelines. He was given very explicit instructions. And so I was very impressed the fact that we'd obviously prepared very, very well. Our press only broke down, and I'm tired of going on about it, but when Scarlett came on at 68 minutes, he was not closing down quickly enough. And because of that, because Elding had to try and cover two men, because Martin Boyle really does press well, but Elding was trying to cover two men, and it ended up immediately with Chadwell getting booked because Well broke the press. So
we lost Ian for a second there. You're back again.
Yeah, Scarlett would be, as I've said before, would be my last choice as sub. But as I said previously, I assume we've got an agreement with Spurs to play him. But we're right. We needed to win the game, and the guy beside me said that. He said, we're playing, we're not being adventurous enough in a game. We have to win. And David Gray said we came to win, but clearly that was not the priority. So, but against Motherwell, I actually said I would much rather have a Obita instead of Nicky, not instead of Iredale. And obviously Obita made 3 mistakes playing the Iredale role, and all dangerous ones. But again, I was very impressed. Rocky silenced us when he sees something very few have done. And to me, he was clearly man of the match. And he should have made the SPL Team of the Week, but Ross Graham for United beat him because he stifled Celtic. But, it was good seeing us.
We've got a bit frozen again. We'll come back to Ian. Yeah. I'll go to Jack just now. Jack, I noticed a wee name change for you. Updated to Jack's Footy Adventures this year.
I done that last weekend or something, just roughly about that part. Aye.
Excellent. And will you be vlogging from Spartans this weekend? We know Hibs game.
Yeah, Spartans East Kilbride. Aye.
Excellent. That's a massive game for them, isn't it? And Hibs season ticket holders can get in for a tenner as well. If anybody's at a loose end, get yourself along to Spartans.
Hibs season tickets get in, aye.
Nice one. What did you think then on Saturday, Jack? What was your view on the game?
From a match day vlogger point of perspective, it wasn't the best of first halves, in my opinion, because with me, when you're at a game, you want to see goals, you want to see a lot of action, but there wasn't a lot of that in the first half, apart from Motherwell, who had quite a lot of chances as well.
One of the listeners, Tam, has said, I almost hope fourth does go as soon as we can start trying different formations and approaches with next season in mind. At the end of this season can't come quick enough. Well, would you like to see Hibs try some different formations now over the rest of the season, Jack?
I think I would rather we try different formations. We've had loads. We've had 3-5-2. We've had 4-3-3, 4-2-2 or something, I think. I think that's one of them. I might be wrong.
Yeah, 4-2-2 too. We get three twos in there. It always needs to add up to 10, So
it's crazy.
4-2-2-2.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Jack? We're talking about fourth place being out of reach, or with a chance to get it. Where do you see it landing?
I don't see us getting fourth if we keep playing the way we've played in the past 2 games, because we've just had the lack of ambition as a team. And my worry on Saturday was the defence at key parts of the game, because the likes of Rocky Bashiri and players not knowing where to go with the football, and there's just no communication half the time when you're watching these players.
You mean in the attacking sense from the back?
I'd say the attacking sense, and I know that Boyle was at fault for the goal that Motherwell scored that was thankfully ruled offside, but I heard a lot of people around me saying that it still should have been onside, because there was a lot of discussion about that as well.
I think it was definitely offside. It was one of these ones where you didn't even need the lines. You could tell by the 18-yarder, because his foot was on the ground. You could see for the 18-yard line that he was offside. It was definitely the right decision. Thanks, Jack. John, I'm going to bring you back in and just ask whether or not the focus on the lack of goals has maybe taken away from a bit of the praise, like Joe raised it, but it was a really good defensive performance on Saturday that maybe has gone unnoted.
I think Naismith, who clearly has lost a cup final 5-1 as a Kilmarnock player on Sports Scene, was good enough to point out how good the press was as well. I mean, it's I thought there was an effectiveness to the performance. I think Ian's comment about Scarlett coming on was really noticeable. And I would say it wasn't until the last 5 minutes that he actually put any pace into the closing down.
Correct.
And he does have speed. I mean, that was the thing that pissed off. I mean, Motherwell almost they end up with, and this is me hopefully not reading too much into the tactics, but there's a point where Elding gets drawn into closing the keeper down and therefore gets caught too far up the pitch. That then leads to the 3-on-2 down our right-hand side. And I think that's where Chaiwa gets booked. I mean, and it's just that getting drawn in because there wasn't enough pace in front of him from Scarlett.
Yep.
But so tactically, yeah, we got it sorted out. I thought at the back, we looked really good. Yeah, I mean, Boyle makes a mistake, but the ball ricocheted 30 yards. I mean, so it wasn't the idea that he lost the ball in possession. It's the fact that the ball moved that far. We get back to make the initial challenge, and it just drops. It just dropped straight for somebody to pick it up. I mean, so it was it felt a bit at the game. You're looking and thinking, this is what happened the last time we were here. We got a sore bit of bad luck. But again, the flag gets put up because of VAR. I mean, getting a decision right again, as you say. Yeah, and unless the ground staff there are really, really wonky with their 18-yard line, it's the clearest offside of the season. VAR didn't need to draw their lines. So no, I think that there is a bit of credit there. But this is it. Of the games this season that we can be pissed off with, Saturday's not the one. I mean, Saturday's an away game against a team that's above us in the league. We've got a point. The weekend before and the weekend before in terms of Dundee and Livingston do it. But no, can he coach? Yes. Can the coaching team get stuff out of the team? Yes. Were we playing a traditional rigid 3-5-2? No, we weren't. I mean, there was points of which I was clear that we had 4 at the back. I mean, where Abita had just gone out wide left, Nicky had gone up the line. I mean, we weren't playing a rigid position, so there was a fluidity to how we were trying to do it. But just seeing how long you lose the ball if Motherwell get it off you, I mean, is a lesson as to why we were much more controlled in how we tried to look after it ourselves. I mean, so there was so much about it, but it's just, it's one of those loveless well dones to the coaching team because it's not what we needed at this time.
Aye, I think that's a really good way to put it, John. But it's not what we needed at this time, and it's a game that we're chasing to win. Jeff, I'll bring you back in. Tam has said it's easy to sort your defence if it's at the expense of any attacking intent. Sorting out without negatively impacting the attacking side is the difficult bit, and where you need a good manager. So you mentioned earlier about kind of it being good to have seen Hibs show a bit more attacking intent or ambition. How do we get the balance? Or how does David Gray get the balance with the team that he's got at the moment between shoring up the defence and still posing a threat up front?
$64,000 question, Matty. Possibly a good number 6, defensive number 6 that can spray the ball around. Ballas had a decent game on Saturday. But if you're looking to be a bit more adventurous, you need that shield in front of the defence, which we probably don't have at the moment. I might be totally wrong there, but that's my impression, is that we become a bit porous if we abandon what we're doing. When the goals we've lost, forget about Saturday. Saturday was a good defensive performance against a team who have scored as many goals as us this season. I think it's just the goals against that have shafted us, goal difference-wise. The goals against Dundee were poor. 2 of them were poor. One was a worldie. Livingston defence was never troubled. So it's just that I just got the impression it was 2 teams were on Saturday were just not overcoached, but we're very rigid in what we did. And it's a one-off game against a team who like to keep the ball and just wait for you to make a mistake. What they did do was they knocked it around for a bit and then played the quick ball behind for Maswanisi, which was easy for Rocky. That's he just bullied him out the game. So I don't know the answer to it, but I just think maybe Saturday wasn't the game to go gung ho. If we're going to go gung ho, Livingston, maybe we didn't need three at the back. Really go for it there. But if it had finished 2-0 against Livingston, it would be one of them routine games where we go, yeah, it's Livingston. They're always shit games. Move on. But because it was 0-0, there's a lot more noise about it because certain forwards didn't do their job.
Thanks, Jeff. Ian J-Star said, so we aren't scoring goals yet. Ian wants to drop our only player that's creating, and Nicky. How big a problem is it that it is only really Nicky Cadden that's creating at the moment? And
no, it's for that game. That game. What I said the last week's morning was that Jordan Abita puts in good crosses as well, and I felt that we should be erring on the side of defence. That's why I wanted to play Obita instead of Nicky. But the problem is we just play too slowly. We play far too slowly. And Motherwell always had two men on the move at this time. I mean, we transition far too slowly, and we allow the opposition to get back behind the ball with very little effort. It was the same against Livingston. I mean, that's on the 39 games we played now. The average number of shots we have is 13. On Saturday we had 7. The average number of shots on target we have is 5, and we had 1 on Saturday. And believe it or not, we're now down to, if you round it, we're now down to 1 goal on average per game. So it's really, really poor. And I'm not going to go on about it, but I happened to be watching the Wraith Rovers highlights against Partick Thistle, and they turned the ball over. Wraith turned the ball over at the halfway line, and it's Lewis Stevenson is just outside the 18-yard box. He sees the turnover, and 4 seconds later, he's overlapped the midfielder, and 2 seconds after that, he puts in a great cross for Dylan Easton. We're far too slow at transitioning. We have been for a long time. But, at the start of the second half, the well passing started to break down a bit. And it wasn't perfect. But you mentioned, I mean, Barlasser played well. He did play well, but I just feel he was getting tired. He's faded. He's done that before. And I would have liked to have seen Joe Newell coming on to see if he could make a difference. So Eldon came on. He was a lot faster. He came back for the ball as well, which is we've seen him doing in recent weeks. And I think Eldon's certainly takes a lot more responsibility, I think, than Shuto does. But I think we've got the players. We definitely have the players. We just need to play faster.
Joe, you mentioned Levitt earlier, and him leaving in January. Levitt obviously played his part in the 17-game unbeaten run at the end of last season. As did Joe Newell before he got injured. Joe Newell's come back in. Ian's mentioned Joe there as well, but despite being the club captain, he's sort of struggled to get back in the team. Do you think there's a potential exit for Joe Newell in the summer?
I think so, because if you look at the 17-game unbeaten run, could be wrong, but I think he was only in for the first 2 games before he got injured. So most of that long run, he was sadly absent for because of a bad injury that lasted a year. But we're definitely needing that creative midfield player that, Barlasser, I've not been a great fan of his, but he has improved. But this business, that he's a number 6, not a creative midfield player. And that's what we're desperately lacking. Ian goes to all the games, the away ones as well as the home ones. I only go to the home games. But, I'd love to hear his comments, because I think I've watched Hibs teams over many years, and the good Hibs teams have always got that creative midfield player. We've not had one for years in Hibs.
Stephen, what sort of midfielder are we missing then? So we mentioned Jeff had said about not having the stopper at the back, like I guess the Matty Jack role. Jeff, is that kind of what you were meaning? And Joe's mentioned not having the Levitt type to create, but we sort of have Chilwell, who's a bit box to box. We have Barlasser, who's the quarterback, if you like, and then we've got McGrath, the number 10. But what sort of profile of midfielder are we missing, do you think?
Probably certainly in my youth growing up, the best number 8s were your Frank Lampards and your Steven Gerrards, the ones that could get 10, 15 goals a season. They could link play from defence, they could link the midfield into the attack. Somebody like that, box to box, but with an actual purpose. Chaiwa's engine is incredible, and I actually thought he was pretty decent on Saturday as well. But there's something lacking in terms of an awareness to take a shot, to take on a shot, or try and do that killer pass. So I think we need it's nigh on impossible to find a Steven Gerrard or a Frank Lampard in the window that we have in terms of income and expenditure and things, but something like that. And I did think watching the game on Saturday, our attacks build so slowly, it's inevitable how we're going to try and play them. We go out wide far too often. It's side pass, side pass, side pass, one forward pass, side pass, back pass to start again. It's like, I think I put it in one of the chats, the amount of times that Salinger had the ball rolled, was looking inevitably for Rocky. Rocky gets it, Motherwell press us, and the second pass from Rocky is back to the goalkeeper, and then he's trying to do the same again. It's almost like they're stuck in a continual loop, and they don't know what to do differently or how to do anything differently. And everything does go down the sides, so that there's something clearly missing in the middle of the park. That I'm not saying we centralise all the attacks, but it's so inevitable that we're going to try and get the ball out to Cadden or Naden. And Welsh, he's got excellent delivery. You'd like to think he's going to pick out a header out of the 179 crosses he puts in every single game. And we're so repetitive. There's nothing really tried any differently. And I'd say to my friends, I would love to have seen Ellie on Saturday. Probably would have lost the game because they wouldn't have tracked back. But I think that kind of game was crying out for a maverick of like somebody like his ability to just try and grab it by the scruff of the neck and just make something out of nothing. Because you could check the game now. You could drive past Fir Park now and it'll still be 0-0. Motherwell have completed 17 million passes, but it's still 0-0. 3 shots on target from either side. It was just that we were just so predictable, and I think that's probably the worry under David Gray, is that we're talking about changing formations. I can't see him breaking tradition and changing formations, and the style of attacks, even against Livingston, the attacks were so slow and they were so methodical, but they didn't really have any purpose. They don't even mix it up all that often. It's just, it is a little bit dull at times.
What about this reliance on the left-hand side as well? The Observer showed this, I think it's called the passing lanes graph, where everything comes down our left-hand side. It's like it is all Nick at Cadden, and we've got Paslak on the right-hand side who would be brought in, and I think the assumption was that we were bringing him in to give us a similar threat on the right-hand side to the left. How do we start forcing it down the right more, or do you think teams, because they know we're going to go down the left, they're quite happy to let us have it on that side?
I think so, yeah. And in terms of the makeup of Naden as a player, I think he's naturally more attacking than Paslak. Paslak seems to be more your defensive right winger rather than your attacking right winger. I said a few weeks ago, stick Boyle back out in the right. Try something a bit different. I don't think Boyle's... his legs maybe predict that he's now through the middle, but you want your wingers to be fast, you want your wingers to be tricky. Just do an Ivan Sproul, just knock it down the line and bloody chase it to the byline. Just try something a little bit different, and it then frees up a starting spot up front where you could go with Shuto and Elding, or Scarlett and Elding, Scarlett and Shuto. I'm not convinced Boyle's a striker, and I think that could be deployed maybe a bit better outright, even just to try and, I don't know, maybe get something more out of Paslak. But I can't even remember Paslak putting in a cross on Saturday. I honestly can't. I remember him getting the ball out wide a couple of times, but I don't remember to memory any crosses, which probably suggests that he had crosses, but none of them are particularly effective. So there is a real imbalance there, and you're right. Sides do know that we're going to go down the left, because inevitably, in terms of the quality on the ball and the accuracy of the passing and the accuracy of the crossing, as Ian pointed out earlier, Rabita's got a great cross on him as well. So naturally, you're going to utilise that. But if it's so imbalanced that you almost completely offset the right hand side, then sides can attack that in an attacking sense as well as defending it fairly easily by just overloading the left hand side.
John, you get your hand up. You need to come off mute.
Sorry, just in terms of Paslak, I think that there's one, he's still getting used to what's round about him. There is a bit of a default pass that he has in defence that it goes back to the keeper or goes back to a centre back rather than immediately looking up the pitch. But he does have that habit of being in the box. So he's had that shot with his left foot that he should probably have just passed inside. I think when he's had that shot, we've had about 5 players in the box, and Elding is just the side of him. But again, it doesn't come off. If you put it in the top corner, I would mention it. But so I think that the crossing bit, I agree with, isn't there. But he seems to be at the top end of the pitch, which is different to where we were when we were playing Megwa.
Jack, I'll bring you in next, just on how we sort of vary the attack. Should we expect more for Jamie McGrath in that sense, in terms of the build-up play? So McGrath's done well for goals this season, but should we be looking for more from him in sort of creating and getting those assists?
Yeah, I would say, because he is a good player. You've seen what he was like at St Mirren, Aberdeen, Dundee United. But I think he can offer more as a player. Like, he's capable of it, and he's been good for us so far. Scoring penalties, scoring goals. That goal that he scored against Hearts in the derby as well.
It was a cracking goal, that one.
Yeah.
Jeff, we've got a comment from Hibs 2016. It says, it's all off the hoof on the park. I think the team behind the scenes in charge of signing players are doing a great job. We need that Motherwell manager in, and Boyle is incapable of playing in a partnership. So that shout about the Motherwell manager, obviously he's had a cracking season, but always, and without putting words in your mouth, right, I always think it's funny when you have a game like that. Motherwell were as bad as Hibs on Saturday, but the Motherwell manager's got a free pass for it. Everybody's still like, get the Motherwell manager in, and no disrespect to Hibs 2016, because I actually agree with him. I think the Motherwell manager's done a fantastic job this season, but it's funny when you get a game like that where both teams were as bad as each other, but one gets a free pass and Gray gets hammered for it. What do you think?
He's done. There's no doubting that he's done well this season with the squad that he's got. Anyone can play. Paul McGinn, O'Donnell, another in the centre of defence and have one of the best defensive records. That speaks that the players in front of them are doing the job, not just the defence. So they're well coached. He's been lucky in that Masvanisi's had the season that he's had, and stayed virtually injury free. There's a question: would I take him at Hibs?
It was more just about the perception of the manager. You know, when you have a game like we had on Saturday, that Bertolascu's reputation has come out unscathed, whereas Gray's been, hammered for his lack of adventure.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the people that watch football will say that Gray did a good job on Saturday tactically to nullify what Motherwell are good at. Motherwell, by doing that, he took away some of our offensive capabilities, and and whatever he says, we were slow in the build-up a lot of the time. The one time we were quick, I think Chaiwa got the ball, they broke the press, Chaiwa got the ball, hit a very quick pass out to Nicky Cadden, crossed it, and Shuto should have done better.
Yes.
He missed the ball completely. So we can do it. I just think you've got to judge him on more than one season, the guy at Motherwell. This season's been a bit of an outlier with the old firm being so bad. One of the worst teams I've ever seen, top of the league. It's just one of them daft seasons. So if he has another good season with Motherwell, if he's still there, then I'd definitely be looking at him. But I'm, keep Gray at the moment.
Okay, and Hibs 2016 said, in my defence, and the Danish guy, I can't think of his name, we've been the common denominator in plenty of terrible games this season. I wasn't necessarily disagreeing with you with that. I think the manager at Motherwell has done a great job. Stephen, you got your hand up?
Aye, it's just to come in on, can't even remember his name, because I don't know if you've seen that he was wearing the exact same outfit as David Gray on Saturday, which was quite funny. It reminded me of the 3 stages of Elvis and Father Ted. It was just to point out that they've drew, I think, 12 league games. We've drew 12 league games, and so have Rangers. So between 3 sides, there's 36 draws, almost an entire season. And Jeff made an excellent point there about if they didn't have Masvanisi, where the hell would Motherwell be with that many draws? You have to seriously question if they didn't have that one striker having a fantastic season. I'm not even sure Motherwell would be top 6, and this guy wouldn't be getting heralded as the greatest manager since Jose Mourinho. And it's not to say that he's not a good manager. He clearly is, and exactly the point that he's getting. He's making Paul McGinn look like prime Paolo Maldini, which is absolutely insane. But would I take him at Hibs? I'm not sure I would take him at Hibs. I think he's probably got bigger aspirations in Hibs as well. But it was just to point out that they've drew an awful lot of games that could easily, a draw is a knife edge, isn't it? You look at the 2 games at Tynecastle, they should have been draws at the very, very least. And instead there were 2 defeats. So, if you take those 12 draws, has he had a brilliant season? By Motherwell standards, you would say he has, but it's borderline that it could have went either way.
Dan says they look like Phil and Grant for 90s EastEnders. And they did. It was like, there was a photo. If you'd seen them for the back, who was it? Was it the Spurs manager? They went to say hello to the Liverpool manager. And it was just a random bald guy. Like he would be having trouble with that one as well. Mark says, "Evening, everybody. Matty, you put in some shifts. I've got nothing better today. This is the thing." John, but how costly have these draws been for Hibs this season? Because we've had a load of them. And this thing about the amount of points we've lost for winning positions, etc. It's been a sort of season for us, isn't it?
We loved coming back from 3-1 down with the hoops on against Dundee United. I mean, that felt like a draw that you could get behind. But dropping the points to St Mirren at home, to Kilmarnock at home, despite the European angles to that, dropping the points to Livingston at home, dropping the points to Livingston away with a last-minute penalty, dropping the points to Dundee with a 90-odd minute goal. They just take the sting out, and they crush the love for the season just that little bit each time. It's factors out with. I mean, in terms of the fact that another team's the scores have fallen the right side for them. I mean, in those games, leads to a bit of frustration. But yeah, the draws have killed us, but not necessarily always because we've gone from the Dundee game finished at full time the same as it was at 85 minutes. I mean, it's whichever way you want to torture the stats, you can find some way to bring it out. But yeah, I think that's about 5 games that I've rattled off there where we would turn around and say, yeah, those should have been 10 points more. Doesn't mean we're top of the league, but it does mean that we're comfortably in charge of the top 4 playoff game. Saturdays would have been a brilliant result because we'd have kept them 4 points behind us. I mean, that's the difference. So yeah.
Joe, you like sort of identifying a player. J-Star said the Just in the Motherwell midfield is a player that would do well at Hibs. Is he somebody you'd like to see us try to bring in?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a super player, no question. And as I said earlier, we do need that quality midfield player that we're lacking just now. But can I just quickly say, Hibs' whole season rests on the next 2 games. I confidently predict if we can win those 2 games against 2 bottom 6 teams, Kilmarnock at home and Aberdeen away, I think we'll nab 4th, provided the split's kind to us and we get Motherwell at home. We should do, but it might not work out that way. But I think Hibs are tottering on. I think we could, because Motherwell are starting to go on a slippery slope in my view. And I'm actually looking forward to Hearts doing us a favour and beating them at Tynecastle in a couple of weeks' time.
Joe, I'm not bringing you back in. That's John, on you go.
Can I just throw a question at everybody else? Was it just me, or was Maz Manisi and a few other Motherwell players awfully quick to hit the deck on Saturday? Looking to get reds and yellows. I mean, I'm conscious that the last time we were there, the officials managed to miss the headbutt onto was Iredale?
Iredale, it was, yeah.
Touchline. Gray specifically picked that up in his post-match. I don't know whether anybody, again, who's commented online, it would just see if anybody had the same thoughts as me. It felt like something that it was a bit sour. I mean, I tend to like Motherwell as a club. I like their attitude. I like the support they've had for mental health charities, suicide prevention and such over the years. the fact that they're in that side of the country and they support a local team. There's loads of things that I just sort of have a bit of liking about Motherwell, but that was a bit of sour taste.
Stephen O'Donnell was bad for it. Stephen, I can't remember if we put it in one of the chats. Like O'Donnell seemed like he was on a mission to wind folk up early doors, and Mascherisi went down early. I think he had a wee clash with Rocky, where he just flung himself to the ground. And I think VAR should be allowed to intervene in those ones and get the referee to review it and tell the players to, well, send the players off if they're cheating. Jeff, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I had the misfortune to listen to Motherwell TV on Saturday, and they were screaming for a yellow or red for every Hibs indiscretion. But the guy, was it Sparrow or somebody, got booked for absolutely flying in on Chaiwa. I thought VAR should have had a proper look at that. Not a peep out of them. Not a peep.
Funny that.
Then we're trying to get one of the Hibs players had just been booked, and they won the ball, and in the follow through, we didn't even catch him with the ball player. He fell over. They're going, that's a second yellow. It should be off. And yeah, but you're right. Whoever mentioned it with yourself about them throwing themselves to the ground, it was obvious, especially Mascherisi against Rocky. He was trying to get Rocky at the very least booked, because that obviously as a centre half, you're then walking the tightrope. Like I know Grant Hanley got a straight red, but you know what I mean. It's yeah. He was poor on Saturday, was Mascherisi, his attitude. Yeah.
Yes, but Rocky was very robust with Mascherisi right from the start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with John that I think that was part of Motherwell's plan was to do exactly what you're saying.
Joe, I wasn't sure if you had your hand up to come in there.
Yes, I did. Can I just ask my fellow Longbangers? I've mentioned a couple of times now that Hibs need that creative midfield player, but do you think once Mulligan comes back from his injury that we've maybe got him already? What does the guys think?
What do we think, Jack? What do you think? Is Mulligan the missing midfielder?
Yeah, because he has been a good player since we signed him.
When you say he has that drive, doesn't he? They can take.
Yeah, he does. He has that drive. He's scored a good few goals as well. The one at St Mirren, the one at Livingston.
Yeah, Ian, what do you think to Joe's question?
Yeah, he's our guy through the middle. There's no doubt he adds an extra dimension. But I've got to agree with I think it was Jeff. I've got to agree with Jeff that Shuto should have scored from that excellent cross from Nicky Cadden, and I think Eldon would have actually scored. It was a tremendous ball. He just had to get ahead of the defender. I think it's a sort of chance that Rosie Livingston would have put away, no bother. But just you mentioned Just there. You mentioned Just. I think my pretty much standout players for the year from other teams have been Mascherisi, Just, but also Lucas Stevenson. I realise Stevenson's not going to be available. I think he's Liverpool, but he's been fantastic every time I've seen him play.
Yeah, he is really impressed. Dan said heard rumours will be in for Barney Stewart. Might be a good idea. He got a hat-trick against us. Kenny said we've lost 8 points to late goals and gained 6, so not that bad. J-Star said I'm sure we'll have Hearts and Falkirk next. They two both need to win, so we must beat Killie and Aberdeen. Here's a question for you guys. So Mark said, how do folks feel about our current loan players, irrespective of money or supposed higher levels? On performances in the house shirt, would we rate keeping any of them? Stephen, I'll start with you for that one. So loan players that we have at the moment, we've got Barlasser, we've got Andrews, we've got Scarlett. Any other ones I'm missing?
Garananga,
thank you.
In terms of keep, I would keep Barlasser. I'd be open to one or two of the others and a potential loan again next season. I think Garananga looked decent against Dundee United. He had a bit of a harem-scarum against Hearts, but I definitely think if Copenhagen have spent £3-4 million on him, there's obviously somebody there. But in terms of keep for next season, I would definitely be looking at Barlasser.
Great. John, what about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I was just quickly looking to see if I could see if there was anybody else. I agree. I think Ian has made the point a couple of times that Barlasser is probably an exit loan, and I would be surprised if we don't have him next season. The Scarlett is probably the other one that I would think of, but again, similar to what Stephen's saying, you're looking more as bring him in as a loan for next season. Coventry may go up, but I think at his age they're unlikely to want to sell him. So I'd rather, and it's simply because he's come in, he's got a bit of physicality about him. He's fitted into the midfield. He's provided good energy in there, which is again part of what you need in the Scottish game. It's we love the craft of the Scott Islands, but we love him even better when he puts Ian Black on his backside. So you've got to have that bit of sort of dig in you as well.
Is there anybody else want to comment on that, Jack? You anything on the loan players? Which ones would you keep?
I'd keep Kai Andrews because I think if Coventry are going to be going into the Premier League, I think he'll probably get put on loan again because I think it's maybe a bit too soon for him to go into the Premier League because that's a bigger league than ours.
I agree on Barlaser. Barlaser's the only one I would keep, actually. I think we've got better players, the rest of them, but we've got better players than the rest of them. Certainly, Chaiwa's better than Andrews. I would say that Garananga, well, he's unproven, basically.
Yeah.
But he'd really struggle to... he would struggle to unseat Warren Hora just now. And Warren Hora is one of our options, believe it or not, for going forward. He really is. So I think I would only keep Barlaser, and that's only because, as John says, we expect to have him anyway. But the others are just not an upgrade on what we got. I just wanted to jump in on the stats, just to remind you, in 39 games, we've won 14, lost 12, and drawn 13. So our win rate is 36%. So if that was American football, the coach would be fired.
No, not great, is it? John, you get your hand up?
Well, I think the other thing that comes into me is that I'm not seeing Joe Newell as fighting his way back in a starting position at Hibs. So I'd be curious as to whether he decides to move on over the summer. He may be settled, there may be other things. I think his contract's there for next season. But if you give me a choice between having Scarlett coming in for the midfield position, because he's getting on the pitch just now ahead of Newell. We know he's been out long term with an injury. I don't think we were all particularly impressed at Dunfermline, which is really the last time he had a longer run out.
Yeah.
Which is maybe unfair because both him and Hoylett were in the team. But I think it's those sort of balances that you have to bring in when you're saying, are you going to keep the team and what rotation is going to come in?
Yeah, good point. Kenny said Scarlett will be playing in the Championship with Spurs next season. Hibs 2016 says time to move Newell on, in my opinion. Ian, what do you think of Newell? You quite like Joe Newell as a player. Do you see a space for him in the team next season?
I think he's as good as Barlaser. Yeah, so if you've got to have a backup for players, then I think Joe Newell could have come on and made a difference. So I think Joe Newell and Barlaser are at a par. I really do, although I would have always preferred Joe Newell, but Barlaser's really played well. But he tends to fade from games, and he doesn't stamp his authority, and he doesn't have the influence that I would expect somebody like him in his position to have. I realise Joe Newell didn't always do that, but Joe Newell always looked like he meant business, and he tackles far better than Barlaser does. And he gets booked, but Barlaser tends not to be the confrontational type that Joe Newell is. So it swings and roundabouts, but I think they map to each other pretty well. So I wouldn't get rid of Joe Newell.
That's an interesting point. I really agree with you as well about the physical side of it, because Newell definitely likes to get stuck, and he sort of relishes that side of the game. And I don't think we really have that in the team at the moment. And I also agree with you about the making an impact on a game point as well, like having that influence. This is with Joe. You mentioned Mulligan earlier. I think we saw against Kilmarnock, when the game wasn't going our way, we had Mulligan, and I think McGrath, from memory, stepped up and made something happen in the game. And we really missed that on Saturday. Somebody to kind of go and take the game by the scruff of the neck. J Star said, who do we think we will lose in the summer that belongs to us? And Ken says we'll probably lose Chaiwa to a decent bid in the summer. And Hibs 2016 says it's ironic since we played like an American football team under David. So we know of a few exits already, Jack. We know Boyle's away, Yuan's out of contract. I think we'll see him go.
Johan, I'm not sure, but I think he might leave. And I did hear stuff about Hibs wanting to move Chaiwa on as well. I heard that for a Hibs fan that came into my work today. And obviously Nicky Cadden, but Chris Cadden, he's away as well. So
all right.
Yeah.
Stephen, do you see any surprises with exits in the summer?
It's a good question. I recall last season the big talk was the likely clear out in the summer, and it didn't really come to pass. I actually think we might be more benefiting of a bit of a mass clear out this summer. I think Mana will go as well. He's the forgotten man in all of this.
Yeah, of course.
A huge disappointment, that signing. Some of these players will be on pretty good money as well. So if we can identify and target players that are better than what we have, every player is, releasable, every player is sellable. I'd be disappointed to see Chaiwa go because he's still only, 2021? He's got a lot ahead of him. But I think on the likes of Chris Cadden, I don't think that would be an almighty loss. Mana, I think, will go. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Neal was perhaps looking to move back down south to try and get some games before, getting to the latter stages of his career. And the defence, I think, is probably mostly the likelihood is probably that they'll stay around. The goalkeeper's fixed into a longer term contract. Boyle's obviously moving on. I can't see Ewan staying when he's not even getting on in games like that on Saturday where he could have potentially done something to change it. I can't see him staying. I can see him moving on elsewhere. So I think what was predicted last summer might actually come to pass this summer. There might be quite a lot of ins and outs over the summer.
You're probably right. Jeff, do we need to be worried about keeping a hold of Salinger?
No. If he goes, he goes. I'm confident they'll find another keeper as good as. But I don't want to go. That came out wrong. But I never really worry about keepers going because surely there's another competent shot stopper. I've been really impressed with him this season though. He's an upgrade on Smudge. I'd be more worried about losing players like Mulligan or Chaiwa unless a Bowie type ridiculous bid comes in. Then obviously they'll go. But I think there'll be somebody sniffing around Mulligan. If he has a good end to the season, hopefully he's back for the Killie game.
I think Dave Grace said to be back post split.
Is it post split?
I think he said that.
Yeah, Chaiwa. There's been a lot of talk about Chaiwa, Celtic, usual, stuff. I wouldn't worry about losing the keeper. I think we'll be okay with him. But the midfield, if we lose Chaiwa and Mulligan, that's a lot to replace.
Joe, you had your hand up as Jeff was speaking, so I'll come to you and then I'll get John next.
I think one of our most consistent players this season has been Warren Ahura, and I think he's a stick-on to become club captain next
year. Yeah, I think that's a good point. He's since he's come back into the team, he's been excellent. John?
I thought Ian was going to speak.
I don't know. I thought Ian was just clearing his throat there. I wasn't sure, but on you go, John.
I would say
it was me.
I think the left field one for me is Josh Campbell. He's going into the last year of his contract. There's been talk a couple of times about there being an Italian move in the background. He's at the stage where we all love 32. But there's a young lad called Rudy coming through behind him who could maybe take that young Hibs player in the squad's position. I think Rudy's good enough. He's been unlucky with injury this season. And there's a bit of me wouldn't be surprised to see that there was a bid coming in for Campbell. As I say, it's as much on. There's been noise over the past year at the two transfer windows, and he's going into the last year of his contract.
Really interesting to see what will happen. Mark said would mostly agree Barlas is the only one I'd like to keep. I hope when Mulligan recovers it doesn't coincide with the ugly sisters tormenting us with derisory offers all summer. And this question, I think we'll close on this one from Tam. Tam asked, does 5th in Europe versus 5th in no Europe change the job Gray is doing and whether he's the right man or not? So I'll go around the screen. Jack, I'll start with you. Does it make a difference for how Gray's season has been viewed if we get Europe 5th place or not?
Well, the way the season's started, the way it's going, I feel like we're ending the season how we started last season. But if we were to try and get Europe, it's more impressive. Sorry, I got interrupted there.
Oh, you're all right.
But I've just lost my words there. That's terrible. because my sister's just interrupted there. What were you talking about again? I've just went completely
you were saying
blank.
if we got Europe, it would be impressive.
Yeah, it would be impressive, but you can only get Europe if Celtic win the Scottish Cup. But
Not true. We can still get fourth.
Well, but I suppose for the premise of this question, Joe, which was if we finished fifth, would it make a difference if we got Europe or not? But what do you think, then, Joe? Would it change how you view the season if fifth place got us Europe?
No, because it's been a transitional season. If you look at all the new players we've brought in, including post-split players, we've got just about a whole new team. You know, Mulligan, McGrath, the goalkeeper, Shuto, Elding. You know, that's the crux of our team for next season. So it's been a transitional season. I don't care if we get the back door and Celtic win the cup. Thank you very much. We'll take it.
It would be just our luck for Celtic to finish third and win the cup, and for them to fuck us that way as well, which is very possible. Ian, what do you think? We obviously had the extra time about targets through the week, and you've obviously written us a wee bit for the banger publication that we put out on our Patreon. Fifth with Europe or fifth without Europe, does that affect Gray's performance review?
I think it would definitely impact his assessment at the end of the year. Yes, it would. Whether it would really affect his, whether it really reflect his performance, I don't know. But I think if we don't get Europe and we get fifth, I think the board will correctly be looking around. You know, if we don't get Europe, I think that must be one of the targets this year.
Steve, what do you think?
I think we maybe do a wee bit of good karma after Celtic completely arsed the treble last year and let Aberdeen into the group stages. So fifth with Europe, would I take it right now? No, because I think Joe's right. I think we've still got a chance for fourth, and until that's ruled out, that fifth with Celtic winning the cup becomes what we're all anticipating and hoping for. Although that Celtic team could easily lose the semi-final against St Mirren because they are absolutely dreadful. But if the target at the start of the season was Europe, and we achieve Europe, you know, whatever means you get there, you'd have to deem it a success. But I would agree with Ian, it would definitely skew the overall critique of his performance over the season, because I don't think anybody in this call fully believes that fifth place so far behind Hearts and so far behind a poor old Firm and also a rejuvenated Motherwell side is anywhere near good enough for this football club.
Yeah, agreed. Jeff, what do you think?
I don't think it makes any difference if we finish fifth. Whether we get Europe or not doesn't make any difference to the season. We're relying on another team, you know, basically Celtic getting us into Europe through the back door. I think we did it was it Lee Johnson? Celtic beat Inverness and we got Europe that way.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a success considering the season we had that year, but I don't think it affects Gray's position, if that was the question. I just think it's been a meh kind of end to the season. All the excitement was at the start. And apart from the Derby win and the win at Celtic Park, it's just been, just a nothing season.
Can I just agree with Jeff there? I've deliberately put my Block 7 Hibs Away sticker on because I've actually got my Longbangers Hibs Away. But I deliberately put that on because it really is like that. At the start of the season, we'll all remember how great it was to be singing Hibs Away. And we sang it at Parkhead. So we sang it at Parkhead when we beat Celtic. But that seems to be one of the few times we've sung it for months, you know?
Indeed. John, you got last comment on it then. How do you feel about the season? Is this a season to forget?
I think it's not the 150th season that we all wanted. I think it started off well. If we ended up fifth and with Europe, we would all forget about it in a couple of years and just talk about the road trips that we would hopefully have over the summer. Certainly anything that means that we're not in the CIS school, whatever cup it is, starting on the 13th of June, would be brilliant. If I'm honest though, I think that how Gray will be looked at this season will be determined by who's champions. And I think the simple idea is that there's a huge part of the fan base simply will not forgive the club, and somebody will have to take the can if Hearts win if Hearts win, and he won't go over the summer, but it will be like Jack Ross. He will go into next year, and it will just gradually fizzle out.
Okay, well, on that cheery note,
Sorry,
we will,
just the cheery bit at the end.
we will wrap up. Obviously, there's no Hibs game this weekend, so we'll not have a preview show out on Friday. We'll maybe suck up one of the old episodes, maybe like an old extra time or an old short bangers or something like that, just to rejuvenate. Or we might pull out one of our previous interviews that we did years back. There's a few good ones out there as well. So we'll stick something out, but we will be back on Sunday with the main episode. So if there's anything you'd like us to cover, do get in touch and we'll pick it up and talk about it on Sunday. In the meantime, guys, thanks very much for your time this Wednesday night, and we will catch you all next time.